Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella. Discover the dark side of love in this goth and lovely romance with Spinsterella. Get Spinsterella in paperback and e-readers at your favorite online bookseller today. About a week ago, I made a video talking about how actress Halle Berry, starring in a romantic comedy with a black male A-list lead, was a missed opportunity for the Hollywood movie studios in the 1990s and the early 2000s. And many people in the comment section really didn't understand what I was talking about when I made that video. And as I was looking in the comment section, a lot of people made emotional responses without ever critically thinking about what I was presenting in that video. Now, when it comes to Halle Berry, she was considered to be one of the most beautiful black women in the world and was in her prime as related to her beauty in the 1990s and the early 2000s. And it's a shame we never got an opportunity to see Halle Berry star in a romantic comedy with many of her top A-list black male stars, such as Wesley Snipes, such as Denzel Washington, such as Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, or Cuba Gooding Jr., and it's a real shame that we never got to see Halle Berry star in that one great black on black romantic comedy that presented black on black love while the trend of romantic comedies were hot. And it's a shame that Halle Berry never got to be a part of the genre to become a major star the way her white and non-black contemporaries did, such as Julia Roberts, the woman who basically revived the entire genre of the romantic comedy in 1990 with Pretty Woman, Cameron Diaz, who became a major star due to romantic comedies, and women like Jennifer Lopez, Gwyneth Paltrow, Reese Witherspoon, and Renee Zellweger. All of these white and non-black women went on to become major stars who had bankable box office on in the romantic film genre. However, Halle Berry, the world's most beautiful black woman, never got to star in any of those kinds of films in that genre, and it's a real shame that that she never got those opportunities to star in those kinds of films. And I really wanted to go in depth on this because it's really sad that Halle Berry never got that opportunity to be in that great black romantic comedy at the side of a black male who was in love with her. And it's a shame we never got to see that kind of black on black love on screen. Now, some people in the comment section got emotional and wanted to say Boomerang and Strictly Business were romantic comedies, but while they're good movies, I really wouldn't say that they are on the same standard of films like Pretty Woman or Bridget Jones' Diary or Legally Blonde, which went on to become blockbuster films. Now, Boomerang was a box office hit in 1992, but that story really wasn't the picture of black love I would consider to be a great romance. I mean, yes, you've got the story of Marcus, who's the player, but this player's main focus was Robin Givens' character, and his main focus was getting with the Robin Givens character, who basically was the one who gave him a run for his money. And Halle's character in Boomerang basically wasn't the woman that he wanted. She was the woman he settled for at the end of the movie. And instead of a black woman being seen as a woman who was a love interest, she's basically a consolation prize. And in the case of Strictly Business, while that film is a very good movie with a great romance, it really isn't the great romance that I would consider a great romance, because the Joseph C. Phillips character is a bit of a simp, and as a bit of a simp, he basically is objectifying Natalie, the character Halle Berry plays, and he really doesn't see her as a person the way a woman is seen in one of the great romances like A Pretty Woman. No, in those kinds of movies, the woman is seen as human, and that's the kind of story that I wanted to see between a black man and a black woman. A great romance where the black woman is seen front and center as the person that the black male lead desires. That's what I wanted to see as a great black romance, but and sadly we didn't get that kind of film as related to Halle Berry. Again, here is a black woman who is considered to be one of the most beautiful black women in the world, but she doesn't get to be seen as someone who is attractive or desirable in a film with a black man. No, when it comes to the black woman, she's basically presented as somebody who has to settle for second best or be objectified by a simp, and that's not really romance, that's not really love. No, that's not really love when you compare it to the films that star white and non-black actresses like Julia Roberts, like Gwyneth Paltrow, like Cameron Diaz, and J-Lo, and even Renee Zellweger, and even obscure white actresses like Toni Collette. I mean, and even Ricki Lake. Even Ricki Lake got a romance where she basically was desiring an attractive man in a made-for-TV movie, but a black woman who's considered the most beautiful black woman in the world is not seen as somebody who is worthy of being a lead in a role where she's in a romance with a black man who basically sees her as someone that is considered lovable or desirable or attractive enough for him to see as someone he wants to have a relationship with. That's the whole bone I have to pick with Hollywood as related to the way they present black women in film, because they don't do this with black men in films. I mean, when you look at Will Smith in the movie Hitch, I mean, Will Smith is presented as this guy who's, again, a dating expert, but this dating expert is seen as someone who is desirable by a Hispanic woman, Eva Mendes, but you don't see Will Smith in a movie with a black woman in the same way, and that's where I have my bone to pick with Hollywood, because, again, you had Halle Berry, who was considered to be the most beautiful black woman in the world, but you don't see her in a romantic comedy where she's considered beautiful by a black man, that he's willing to see her on a level that he wants to go out here and see her as attractive and desirable. And that is where, again, I had that bone to pick with Hollywood, that we rarely ever get to see a black on black romance as related to what I consider to be actual romance, because as a guy who has written romance novels such as A Recipe for Success, the supernatural romance The Temptation of John Haynes, and the black goth romance Spinsterella, when I write romance, I always write romance where the black woman is out here interested in a black man, and the black man sees the black woman as attractive and desirable, and because they both see each other on that level, you see a romance build in the same way that it builds in a romantic comedy that stars the white and non-black actresses. And when you see that kind of love, it shows you a black man loving a black woman. And again, this is the talking point I wanted to present as related to Halle Berry, because again, I just find it quite odd that a woman who was considered one of the most beautiful women in the world and considered to be the most beautiful black woman in the world never got a chance to star in a romantic comedy at the side of a black man, and never got to be seen as the center focus of as a love interest for that man, and we never got to see her pursuing a black man, and we never got to see that black man pursuing a black woman. We never got to see a black man and a black woman in a story where they fell in love. That was, I would consider to be, the great black romance. We never got to get that black romance, and it's a shame we didn't get that in the golden age of black cinema that took place from, I believe, the 1984 to 1992 2 or so, which I believe was a golden age of black cinema before the Hood movies took over. And it's a shame we didn't get that great black romance. Yes, we got a lot of great movies, but it's a shame we never got that great black romance, even though you had one of the most beautiful black women in the world and a group of what I consider to be some of the greatest black male actors of all time. I mean, it's a shame we didn't get that great black love story, that great black love story where we could have seen a beautiful black woman out here interested in a black man and a black man interested in pursuing a relationship with a black woman. It's a shame we never got that kind of film, even though the 90s was filled with great romantic comedies like Pretty Woman, Sleepless in Seattle. Bridget Jones's Diary was a 2000s film, but we had so many romantic comedies like The Notebook, and these films went on to become huge box office hits, and many of the actresses who starred in those films, such as Gwyneth Paltrow, Jennifer Lopez, Julia Roberts, Renee Zellweger, Reese Witherspoon, all went on to become stars because these films basically cost under $20 to $40 million and went on to become films that went to make $300 to $400 million at the box office. And based on the success of Boomerang, there was an audience for that kind of film. However, instead of looking to make that great black romance, what Hollywood did was look to continue promoting the white supremacist narrative that continued to further exacerbate the gender war in the movie Waiting to Exhale. And Waiting to Exhale was basically a film designed to create an idea in black women's minds that they could not get a man, and push a narrative that Terry McMillan wanted to push regarding there being this shortage of good black men. However, if we look at Hollywood, there were plenty of good brothers in the acting pool that could have represented good black men. I mean, you had Denzel Washington, you had Wesley Snipes, you had Will Smith, you had Cuba Gooding Jr., you had Jamie Foxx, and even other guys like Shamar Moore. I mean, you had lots of handsome brothers who were out here who could have been leading men, lots of handsome brothers who could have been leading men to play off of Halle Berry in a film. You had lots of handsome brothers who could have been great to be in a movie where we could have seen black love, but sadly we didn't get to see black love because nobody had the vision to say, hey, let's make that great black romantic comedy. Let's make that great black romantic comedy where we basically see two stories that I usually do when I'm writing romances. One is where an extremely attractive woman sees a guy that she likes and looks to go out here and pursue that guy. Or two, a guy is out here and he sees a fly girl and he decides to step to her. I mean, these are stories that I know would have been blockbusters at the box office, especially if it had starred one of the world's most beautiful black women, again, co-starring at the side of a black man. But sadly, no one in Hollywood wanted to make that kind of film because Hollywood is the media arm of white supremacy. And with Hollywood being the media arm of white supremacy, they wanted to further push the gender wars that were on their media, such as the Oprah Winfrey Show and other talk shows like Jenny Jones and Ricky Lake and Jerry Springer, and continue to push that narrative in their literature, where they had the single successful black woman lamenting that she could not find a man. And those narratives were basically false, but they continued to push them because they wanted to drive a wedge between foundational black American men and foundational black American women, and wanted to again drive this wedge between black men and black women because white supremacy doesn't want you to see black on black love, doesn't want you to see a black woman desiring a black man or a black man desiring a black woman. Moreover, they don't want you to see a black woman as attractive or desirable. They don't want you to see a black woman as considered to be attractive or desirable, especially in the eyes of a black man. No, what white supremacy wants you to do is see the white woman as the ultimate ideal of beauty, and that's another reason why the studios didn't want to greenlight a romance with Halle Berry, because if we started to see Halle Berry on the same level as those white females, then you might start to see black men thinking to pursue black women as attractive or desirable. And this is the kind of media that white supremacy puts out here to program the idea that black women are unattractive in black men's minds. This and other degrading Jezebel images like Little Kim and Foxy Brown in the 90s. This is all about, again, like Professor Black Truth has talked about, mind control. And the whole point of this mind control was to make it where a generation of black men who grew up in the golden age of black cinema would go and start seeing black women as unattractive and undesirable, and look to pursue white and non-black women who would be presented in a much more positive light, because that's the way they were presented in all of those romantic comedies. I mean, all of these white women and these non-black women were presented as more desirable and more attractive in comparison to black women, because there was no romance out here written that showed black love. I mean, if you look at the whole book section in the African American book market of the 90s and the 2000s, it was either single, successful, well-educated black woman who can't get a man, and movies like Waiting to Exhale, where they just sat there and man-bashed for 2 hours, or in the 2000s shows like Girlfriends, where the women just lamented they could not find that relationship. I mean, this was the narrative that white supremacy wanted to push towards black women, and wanted to push this narrative, again, even with guys like Tyler Perry, who didn't understand how relationships worked. And again, this is why we didn't get that great black romance, even though we had extremely beautiful black women who could have starred in those kinds of movies. I mean, Halle Berry, again, was considered to be one of the most beautiful black women, but I also saw women like Sally Richardson and women like Jada Pinkett. Even though she's considered to be a bit of a hood rat these days, she could have been in one of these kinds of movies. Yes, there was Jason's Lyric, but Jason's Lyric really, that movie was dysfunctional all around. But we really missed that opportunity to make that great black romantic comedy where we saw a black woman being pursued by a black man and pursuing a black man, and showing how she desired a black man, and that image of showing a black woman as attractive. I mean, we missed that opportunity, because what that film would have had was a major impact on the minds of black men and black women and black teenagers who go see these movies. It would have had a major impact on the perception of black women, because if you see a film where you see a kind, friendly, approachable black woman, and she's pursuing a man, it basically makes it where women start to see a model for their behavior, and two, it makes it where a man starts to see a example of the kind of woman that he would want to pursue. And the Hollywood movie studios didn't want to make that kind of story. They didn't want to make that kind of story because, again, as the media arm of white supremacy, they are in the business of programming minds and mind control. And what they wanted to do was basically turn the black man against the black woman. And that's why one of the reasons I believe we did not get to see a great black romantic comedy, even though Halle Berry was in her prime, even though Halle Berry was in her prime and could have become an A-list star on the level of Julia Roberts, Cameron Diaz, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Reese Witherspoon and Renee Zellweger, and women like Meg Ryan. She could have been on a level of those women as related to box office and bankable on that level. I mean, she could have been on that level if Hollywood had thought about starring her in those kinds of romantic comedies, because it's clear that there was an audience of black men ready to go see that kind of movie based on the box office of Boomerang, based on the box office of Strictly Business. There was an audience there ready to go see these movies of not only black women who like romance, but black men who like romance, because black men, we do like romance stories. we do like love stories because we see women that we want to date, women we want to marry, women who have traits of women we want to date and marry. And women like these movies because they get to see a story of a woman falling in love, and they also get to see a model for behavior that could possibly get them an opportunity to find the man that they want. I mean, this was one of the catalysts that basically drove the black book market over the 1990s and the 2000s, but sadly, Hollywood, again, didn't want to capitalize on that whole genre, and sadly, many people were not critically thinking about what I was breaking down in that video. They weren't really critically thinking. Again, they came with emotion, and because they came with emotion, they thought, oh, Boomerang and Strictly Business were examples of romance, but they were not the great black romance that we really needed to have on film. What we really need to have on film is that great black romance where that black man basically is out here in love with this black woman, standing up for black love and standing up for black women. And we need that story of this black woman who basically is looking at a black man as her first choice, and that first choice that she wants to pursue. We really need to see that kind of story, because I'll repeat it once more for those who don't understand. When it comes to black women, when we see a black woman out here desiring a black man, seeing a black man as attractive, this is something that again shows black love. And again, when you have a black woman loving a black man and sees herself as seeing a black man as a reflection of her, this is something that again, it's something that when people see this, they see it as a model for love of self, because I find it interesting that yes, we can get a movie that stars a white man and a white woman seeing each other as reflections of each other. We can even get to see a romance like A Hitch with Will Smith, with a black man pursuing a Hispanic woman. And we can get to see movies that feature all kinds of stories that with black men at the sides of white and non-black women. But it's sad that, again, the black woman who is considered one of the most beautiful women in the world could not be seen with a black man. I mean, even in the 1950s with Carmen Jones, we got to see Dorothy Dandridge, again, considered to be the most beautiful black woman of her time at the side of Harry Belafonte. But it's a shame that in the times that were not Jim Crow, because Carmen Jones came out in the times of Jim Crow, in a time where black people had their freedom, we didn't exercise our freedom so that Halle Berry could be, again, the most beautiful black woman in the world at the side of a black man. No, she went on to have a career that basically showed how Hollywood, again, did not respect black beauty, because they put her in some of the ugliest films, such as Monsters Ball, and films like Frankie and Alice and Catwoman. Again, films that basically torpedoed her career and kept her from becoming that bankable star that her white and non-black counterparts became. I mean, it's sad because romantic comedies are the core for a white or a non-black actress to bankability, and sadly, Halle Berry was cut off from being able to make those kinds of films, because white supremacy continues to participate in anti-black racism to torpedo the career of black actresses, continues to participate in a campaign to torpedo black actresses' opportunities to be able to make a living, where they can't get into genres like romantic comedies, they can't get into lead roles where they can be seen as attractive or desirable, they can't get into lead roles where they're shown as the love interest, they can't get into those kinds of roles. I talk about this in my screenplay all about Marilyn, about how black women, again, can't get those opportunities. And again, this is why it's a missed opportunity for Halle Berry, because she could have gone on to become a superstar on the level of all of those actresses that I mentioned. She could have gone on to become a superstar actress on the level of Julia Roberts. She could have gone on to become a bankable star like Cameron Diaz. She could have gone on to become an icon in the black community the way J-Lo is in the Hispanic community. She could have gone on to have a long story career like Renee Zellweger and other women such as Reese Witherspoon. She could have gone on to become a major star in Hollywood, but instead of becoming that major star who starred in franchise movies like Bridget Jones and Legally Blonde, what Halle Berry is a black actress who sadly fell into obscurity by bad management choices, and also fell into obscurity due to white supremacy, basically impeding her ability to become the star to actualize her potential. And that's the real shame about the missed opportunity of making that black on black romantic comedy with Halle Berry. Now, if you want to pick up some of my romances that feature black on black love, such as A Recipe for Success, Spinsterella, Esteem the Sands of Time, and The Temptation of John Haynes, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to help me be able to continue making videos and making content and being able to pay for book covers for many of my books, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Esteem the Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of Esteem the Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.